was waiting, looking like a man awaiting execution. "What the hell happened to you?" Rodney asked. "I went out," Dell said, his voice flat. "I went to a club, talked to a laptop salesman. Even he said it wasn't Ravel." "I'm sorry, Dell," Rodney whispered. "I could have sworn." "You and your two GCEs," Dell scoffed. "Ravel makes shoes, Rodney. It was a trick question and you fell for it. You're a pair of dipsticks, the lot of you." He threw a 1-pound coin onto the table, his only winnings from the night. Just then, the phone rang. Raquel answered it. Her face went pale. "Dell, it's the producer of Gold Rush. He wants to talk to you." Dell snatched the phone. "Hello. Yes, this is Derek Trotter." "What? No." He listened for a moment, his expression shifting from anger to disbelief, and then to a cold, hard, cynical smile. "He said there's been a mistake." Dell told the room. "He said it was Ravel. He said I can take the 50,000 pounds and come back on the show." Rodney jumped up, a cheer beginning to form in his throat. "I knew it. I knew I was right." But Dell didn't cheer. He looked at the phone, then out the window at the familiar lights of the estate. He heard the faint sound of a jukebox from a distant pub. "Nice try, Mickey Pierce," Dell shouted into the receiver. "I can hear the jukebox in the pub. You phone here again, and I'm coming down there to kick your arse into shredded duck." He slammed the phone down. "What are you doing?" Rodney yelled. That was the producer. "We're rich again." "It was Mickey Pierce, Rodney," Dell said, his voice filled with a weary certainty. "Winding us up, trying to get a rise out of the Trotters." He picked up the 1-pound coin and looked at it. "Don't worry," Dell said, the old familiar spark returning to his eyes, "even if it was just a flicker. I've worked it all out. I'm a trader, ain't I? This time next year, we'll be millionaires." Rodney looked at his brother, then at the phone, then at his plastic gladiator breastplate. He sighed, a long, tired sound that seemed to sum up the entire history of the Trotter family. "Yeah," Rodney whispered, "this time next year." Outside, the wind whistled through the concrete canyons of Peckham, carrying with it the echoes of 1,000 schemes, 1,000 dreams, and the enduring, unbreakable spirit of the two brothers who refused to let the world win. The end. The Peckham Phoenix. A novelization of the Trotter Chronicles. Chapter 1. The Yellow Ghost of Peckham. The yellow three-wheeled Reliant Regal then rattled through the streets of Peckham like a skeletal remains of a decade everyone else had tried to forget. On its side, the faded lettering still defiantly proclaimed, "Trotters Independent Traders, New York, Paris, Peckham." It was a lie, of course. They had been to Paris briefly. They had never been to New York, and Peckham was currently trying its best to pretend they didn't exist. Derek Delboy Trotter sat behind the wheel, his rings catching the stray glints of a London sun that looked like it had been filtered through a greasy chip wrapper. He was humming the theme tune to his own life, a melody of seasons changing and tides turning. "I'll fetch the suitcase from the van," he muttered to himself, a mantra of the perpetual salesman. Beside him sat Rodney. Rodney, the graduate with two GCs and a brain that was currently a chaotic blender of existential dread and marital anxiety. Rodney was looking at the dashboard as if it were a ticking bomb. "What's up with you, Rodney?" Dell asked, his voice a gravelly mix of concern and irritation. "You look like a man who's just found out his lottery ticket was for last week's draw." "I'm a bit nervous, Dell," Rodney admitted, his voice cracking slightly. "This bloke we're going to see, this Justin, he's a documentary maker, right? He's not going to be asking me anything personal about my private life." Dell swung the van around a corner with the grace of a shopping trolley in a hurricane. "Of course he ain't. We're not that private, are we? We're public figures, the trotters of Nelson Mandela House. But what about, me and Cassandra, our hiccups?" Dell rolled his eyes. "He's not going to want to know about your little problems in the bedroom department, Rodney. Though, strictly speaking, if you're having hiccups in the bedroom, you're probably doing it wrong." "I told you that in confidence," Rodney hissed, his face reddening to the color of a ripe tomato. "And I'm keeping it in confidence," Dell shouted back. "I'm not going to be telling him about jiffins and what Cassandra wears. I've got more class than that, mostly." Chapter 2: The Interrogator. Justin was the kind of man who wore spectacles not because he needed them, but because they made his expensive degree look even more expensive. His office was a minimalist vacuum of white walls and overpriced Scandinavian furniture. He looked at the Trotter brothers as if they were a rare species of beetle that had accidentally crawled onto his silk tie. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Justin said, his voice dripping with the practiced sincerity of a BBC middle manager. "It's been a particularly busy morning. Now, I've got all the basic details about your business career, the watches, the bottled water, the pre-war lead soldiers. But what I'd like to do is to get an insight into the real you." Dell leaned back, crossing his legs and adjusting his tie. He felt at home. Give Del Boy an audience and a chance to rewrite history, and he was more dangerous than a shark in a tuxedo. "How you started, how you became so successful," Justin continued, leaning forward. "But more importantly, your lives and your raison d'etre." Dell blinked. "Oh, no. Laboratory Garni. I don't use that stuff. It's all natural, this hair." Rodney groaned into his hands. "He means reason for being, Dell." "I knew that," Dell snapped. "I was just checking if he did." "Right then, Justin. Where shall I start? Up to a few years ago, We were just very ordinary people living very ordinary lives, weren't we, Rodney? Rodney gave a hollow laugh.